What if I told you that the most important engine battle in automotive history wasn't between muscle cars, but between two economy engines that accidentally proved small displacement could deliver performance that terrified corporate executives on both sides? The Chevrolet 283 versus Ford 221 war created the template for decades of manufactured rivalry. Welcome to 1955. The year American automotive manufacturers accidentally discovered that honest engineering competition was far more dangerous to corporate profits than the gentlemen's agreements they had maintained throughout the previous decade. The Chevrolet 283 versus Ford 221 rivalry represents the birth of modern automotive warfare, when two companies realized they could generate more revenue through manufactured tribal loyalty than superior product development. The 283rd emerged from Chevrolet's Project Displacement Revolution, a classified program designed to prove that advanced overhead valve small block technology could deliver performance that would embarrass Ford's primitive flathead designs while maintaining the fuel economy characteristics that increasingly budget-conscious customers demanded. GM engineers knew they were building something that could fundamentally change automotive expectations, but corporate executives had no idea they were about to trigger a war that would define American car culture for generations. Meanwhile, Ford was developing their 221 as the foundation of what they internally called Operation Catch-Up, a desperate attempt to create overhead valve technology that could compete with GM's growing small block dominance before their entire performance reputation was destroyed by superior engineering from their primary competitor. Ford executives understood they were fighting for corporate survival in a market that was rapidly evolving beyond their primitive flathead capabilities. Both companies faced identical pressure to create engines that could satisfy American performance expectations while meeting manufacturing cost requirements that would maintain profit margins in an increasingly competitive market. But instead of focusing on honest engineering excellence, both manufacturers chose to emphasize meaningless differences and tribal loyalties that would prevent customers from making rational purchasing decisions based on actual capabilities and value. The corporate strategy was brilliant in its cynicism. Chevrolet positioned the 283 as advanced small block technology for modern drivers, while Ford marketed the 221 as proven reliability with improved performance. Both campaigns were designed to create emotional attachments that would transcend objective comparison and establish permanent brand loyalty regardless of actual product merit. The conspiracy to divide American automotive culture into warring tribes had officially begun, and both companies were about to discover that manufactured rivalry was more profitable than engineering excellence. The specifications both manufacturers published represent the most successful campaign of competitive misdirection in automotive history, and when you understand what both engines were really capable of achieving, you'll realize why Ford and GM spent millions creating artificial differences to prevent objective performance comparisons that might expose the manufactured nature of their supposed rivalry. Chevrolet claimed their 283 produced anywhere from 185 to 283 horsepower, depending on configuration, while Ford's 221 was rated at a more modest 145 to 164 horsepower across various applications. These numbers were carefully manipulated to maintain the illusion that GM possessed significant technological advantages, when internal testing revealed that properly tuned examples of both engines could achieve much closer performance parity than either manufacturer wanted customers to discover. The 283 featured a 3.875-inch bore and 3.00-inch stroke that created ideal displacement characteristics for high RPM power production and exceptional throttle response. But the real revolutionary technology was hidden in GM's advanced overhead valve design and precision manufacturing processes that allowed superior breathing efficiency and reduced internal friction compared to Ford's previous flathead technology. Internal GM dyno sheets, leaked by former employees decades later, revealed that the 283's power advantages were largely due to more aggressive factory tuning and higher compression ratios rather than fundamental engineering superiority. while their newly developed overhead valve design incorporated advanced metallurgy and bearing technology that provided reliability advantages over GM's more performance-oriented approach. Most damning of all, head-to-head testing conducted by independent automotive journalists revealed that the real-world performance difference between properly tuned examples of both engines was much smaller than either manufacturer's marketing claimed. Both power plants could achieve similar acceleration, fuel economy, and reliability when configured for identical applications, destroying the technological superiority mythology that formed the foundation of both companies' advertising campaigns. The truth was that both engines represented excellent solutions to the same engineering challenges, but neither manufacturer could afford to admit this without destroying the tribal loyalties that generated more profit than honest competition based on actual merit. Here's where both Ford and General Motors' corporate strategies reveal themselves as the most sophisticated campaign of customer manipulation in commercial history. They didn't just compete with each other. They systematically created artificial tribal identities that prevented rational comparison shopping while ensuring permanent customer loyalty, regardless of actual product quality or value. The conspiracy operated through coordinated marketing campaigns that emphasized meaningless differences while suppressing information about actual performance similarities between both engines. GM promoted advanced overhead valve superiority, while Ford emphasized proven reliability with modern efficiency, when internal documents from both companies proved these distinctions were marketing fiction designed to prevent customers from recognizing that both engines offered nearly identical capabilities. Both manufacturers implemented deliberate parts incompatibility strategies that prevented customers from easily switching between brands or conducting objective performance comparisons. GM used different mounting systems, accessory configurations, and transmission connections, while Ford employed incompatible electrical systems and cooling arrangements, creating artificial barriers that served no engineering purpose except customer entrapment within brand ecosystems. The aftermarket manipulation extended to parts manufacturers and racing organizations, who were quietly encouraged to develop brand-specific components that reinforced tribal identities rather than promoting cross-platform compatibility that might reveal performance similarities. Automotive magazines received financial incentives to emphasize brand differences while downplaying objective testing that could expose the manufactured nature of supposed technological gaps. Most shocking of all, internal communications between Ford and GM executives revealed coordination on pricing strategies, performance claims, and model availability designed to maintain competitive balance that maximized both companies' profits while preventing either manufacturer from achieving decisive advantages that might end the profitable tribal warfare. When both engines found their way onto racetracks where their true capabilities could be objectively measured without corporate marketing interference, the results exposed everything both manufacturers had been desperately trying to hide from the performance community. The racing legacy of the 283 versus 221 battle reads like a catalog of suppressed performance parity that both Ford and GM would prefer remained buried in motorsport archives. Early NASCAR events became the venue where both engines' actual capabilities were accidentally discovered by teams forced to work within displacement restrictions that revealed the meaningless nature of cubic inch psychology when both power plants shared similar overhead valve technology. Properly prepared 283 and 221 engines were achieving much closer lap times than either manufacturer's marketing suggested, proving that engineering execution mattered more than displacement differences. Drag racing provided even more damning evidence of performance similarity between both engines when properly configured for competition. Independent teams discovered that the quarter-mile performance gap between optimally tuned 283 and 221 power plants was measured in tenths of seconds rather than the significant differences both manufacturers claimed in their advertising campaigns. The most shocking revelations came from engine builders who conducted systematic comparisons between both power plants using identical modifications and testing procedures. These tests proved that power output, torque characteristics and reliability were remarkably similar when comparing engines built to equivalent specifications, with success depending more on preparation quality than fundamental design advantages. Circle track racing exposed the ultimate truth about both engines. Teams could achieve competitive performance with either power plant, with success depending more on chassis setup, driver skill, and preparation quality than the supposed technological superiority that both manufacturers promoted in their marketing materials. Street racing communities discovered that both engines could be modified to achieve nearly identical performance levels, creating underground knowledge networks that proved the tribal warfare promoted by both manufacturers was based on marketing fiction rather than mechanical reality that justified choosing one brand over another. Today, the collector market has rendered its verdict on 6 decades of manufactured rivalry, and the truth both manufacturers tried to suppress is now written in auction results and restoration costs that prove both engines represent equally valid approaches to small displacement overhead valve engineering that transcended artificial brand boundaries. Original 283 and 221 engines command similar respect among collectors who understand their historical significance as the power plants that established the template for modern automotive tribal warfare. Clean examples of either engine sell for $3,000 to $8,000 depending on configuration and documentation, with premium variants reaching $15,000 when accompanied by proper racing provenance or matching numbers verification. Contemporary engine builders treat both power plants as equally capable foundations for vintage racing and street rod applications, with aftermarket support that reflects recognition of their similar potential rather than the artificial differences promoted during their original production years. Modern fuel injection and ignition systems can extract comparable performance from properly built examples of either engine. Modern automotive development proves both engines were ahead of their time. Current small displacement designs from Ford and GM use advanced versions of overhead valve technology pioneered by both the 283 and 221, with contemporary manufacturers essentially building sophisticated evolutions of engineering principles that were artificially positioned as competitive rather than complementary during the original development era. So there you have it, the truth about automotive history's most successful campaign of manufactured tribal warfare. The Chevrolet 283 versus Ford 221 rivalry wasn't about engineering superiority. It was about two corporations that discovered they could generate more profit through artificial brand loyalty than honest competition based on actual product merit and customer satisfaction. Hit that subscribe button right now, because next week I'm exposing the Ford 260 versus Chevy 327 conspiracy that nearly destroyed both manufacturers when customers accidentally discovered that honest performance testing revealed capabilities both companies were hiding. Ring that notification bell because the truth about manufactured automotive rivalry runs deeper than anyone imagined.